game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
Live from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to opening night of the 2023 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Tonight kicks off the first of a 30-week championship from now all the way through November at Phoenix Raceway, but it is tonight's Daytona 250 that kicks off another season of RSR Cup Series action and another season here Monday nights on RaceSpotTV. Alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined as always by Terry Radford and Nolan Rempel in the RaceSpot booth. Our producer downstairs, Joshua Lee, is bringing us to you, and guys, we all know the tale as old of time. That is the Daytona International Speedway. Nolan, it does not require much elaboration. It's Daytona. It's a plate race, 250 miles, and the first points race of the season right here, right now.
It is the world center of racing, and for good reason. It has been one of the most famous racetracks just shy of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in terms of American racing lore, and I can tell you right now, it is bound to play yet another absolutely phenomenal season opener. What a time we had at the duels just 1 week ago, where we saw one go almost flag to flag, and the other one an absolute caution fest. We saw the best of both worlds, and I have a feeling we're going to be in for one heck of a barn burner than here tonight, where we'll see both of those types of concepts come to life.
Maybe ironic, Terry, that this race, including qualifying, including the duels a week ago, is the longest single race per se of the year, but you were just telling us it's really the shortest of importance, because none of this is really going to matter until we get down to the final 15, the final 10. What happens between now and then is going to be keeping yourself clean, executing on any green flag pit stops, avoiding accidents, just to be there at the end, and then things will get serious at about lap 90.
Yeah, you kind of cleaned that up from what I said in our pre-talk meeting there. It's a little bit cleaner on that side. But yeah, who cares? Who cares about practice? Who cares about warm-up? Who cares about the duels qualifying? It does not matter. You're going to have these cars going around here for the longest theoretical race of our season. If you're in it in the final 10, 15 laps, you got a chance to win. But with these next-gen cars, it's been a little bit different. The handling's off. You see the load going in the corners. Then you see it slide back down. You see them break loose off the exit of 4 and the exit of 2. Top 10. If you're in the top 10 with 10 to go, that's where your winner's coming from, and you could take that one to the bank.
And just as a look at that schedule, we talked about the duels last week. We set the grid for this Daytona 250 exactly 1 week ago, so there is no qualifying tonight. We already know the 43 drivers who are going to race here this afternoon and where they will start from. But let's talk about this 2023 calendar. You saw the playoffs are back a little bit later on this year, Nolan. We're going to go through the 10 rounds, the eliminations, and all that. But this Daytona International Speedway, this 2.5-mile trioval right here is so big because, as always, I think it's fitting that it's lit up in yellow and gold, because the first possible golden ticket into the postseason can come right here, right now. So we are months and months away from the start of the playoffs, but whoever wins tonight's Daytona 250 has a really good shot of fighting for the championship no matter what.
Of course, that does mean they can still be a bit of a hat toss as to who can actually get on into those playoffs over at season's end, right? I mean, we've talked about this before, about how, yes, Daytona does require some skill, but then, of course, you're going to have, obviously, all the big chaos that could come from late in one of these races that could see somebody that might be running more towards the mid pack or even towards the rear of the field that could end up winning this race, and they might not be able to hang on to the necessary points positions they need until the season's end. When we get on down to Watkins Glen, or at the second time we come around to Daytona, for the last regular season race. So there's still a lot of possibility that a whole lot could go wrong for the rest of this season, and we're only scratching the surface with the kind of action we're going to be getting in 2023 here tonight.
Yeah, we'll see some new points races. The street race at Chicago, the All-Star race going to return to North Wilkesboro. Going to be a lot of fun ones, but of course we can't get to the rest of the calendar until we make it through this first race. And how about drivers practicing some green flag pit stops, Terry? If we see them tonight, that's going to be a good thing, but new teams, new drivers, new numbers, new colors, all a part of Daytona week in RSR.
Yeah, but we're taking a look right here at our defending champion of the Cup and the Winter Series in Agnell, Phillip. I think he knows what he's doing when it comes to these green flag pit stops. With these it's a new challenge. It's a new season. It's the start of something different. The cars are a little bit different with the update of what they were last year. There's a different handle to them. We could see a different aspect here. You know, we have a lot of different changes on the schedule, but what did not change is starting at the granddaddy of them all. You start at Daytona, you're going to end at Daytona before we hit the playoffs. But you know, I look at the road courses this season. Evan and Nolan, and I think the road courses is going to be a topsy-turvy one, as you see somebody right there trying to run the road course for Daytona. I wish we would do that. Can we add that to the schedule? Can that be a 31st point playing race potentially?
They're getting ready. Maybe if we get some rain at some point during the year, or if we get rain during that regular season finale, we'll just slap the all-weather tires on them and take them around the Daytona International Speedway road course. But we talked about the duels taking place last week, so qualifying has been well established. Let's introduce you to your 2023 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series field. Brett Pancari was best in single car qualifying. He secured pole for this Daytona 250 alongside Michael Johnson, who also in qualifying secured the number 2 spot. Then it's your dual winners on row number 2, Agno Phillip in the A51 Pro number 94 Chevrolet. In third, Jeremy Miller, the dual 2 winner, will start alongside in fourth. They're just ahead of some heavy hitters. Cody Harris is fifth, and Andrew Freenosh, P6, always a contender.
Row number 4 will hold the likes of Matt Danson for Logitech G Altus Esports with Thomas George back in 8th. William Schmidt brings it up in the 9th position with Ross Cato back in 10th round of the top 10. Andrew Phipps in 11th with David Cobb over in that 12th position.
Back there in 13th, you got Jason Staney with Michael Araya back there on row 7. Jeremy Richard, Ryan Dunkelberger back there in 15th and 16th with Steve Durham, and Braden Whitaker rounds out 18th.
Continuing on through, Sean Castro and Esteban Rodriguez going to bring us halfway home. Brian Dixon and Brandon Fetter place on row 11. Sean Kalis and Sam Nieto, the top 24.
Carl Pooler going to be 25th with Grant Davis at 26th. Nahulian Flores at 27th. Joseph Tice at 28th. Benazzi Majors 29th. Tom Morado rounds out the top 30.
You got Brandon Bowie, Gregory Skull, Paul Bergoli, Steve Tucker, Richard Wolfsire, and Alexander Light back here in 36th.
And then to round this one out, the final couple of drivers will include Richard Woodruff, Eric Stanford, Mike Kuczynski, Matt Marr, and Eric Papineau. Those are all of your dual finishers, with Tom Wetmore getting the number 42 spot on the grid. That is a look top to bottom at your starting grid for this Daytona 250. As always, all the races this season in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series will be half distance of our NASCAR Cup Series counterparts. So tonight's race will be 100 laps and 250 miles here at iRacing's virtual World Center of Racing. There have been so many historic names on the service that have come through this series through the years, and the big story last year was the changing of the tide. Andrew Freenosh's 4 times consecutive title streak was snapped by Agno Phillip. Phillip won not only the 2022 Cup Series title, but it backed it up in the winter with a Winter Series title as well. Now he will look to continue that charge. Pace car down and in for the first time in 2023. We say, let's go racing at Daytona. Pretty good opening lap of this race. The inside will find the advantage as Pancari leads lap 1.
That outside lane came into play big time over in the duels once he got a bit deeper into these runs. Right now, the outside lane does not got themselves established, and we're going to go 3 wide as well with Freenage going up the middle, abandoning the 39 and Michael Johnson up on the top shelf. But once that outside lane, can get established, we're going to be seeing ourselves some proper outside charges the deeper we get into this run. But for now, Johnson, once started way up in the field, he's going to be tumbling all the way down, I'd reckon, outside the top 20 before he finally manages to stop the bleeding.
Well, I think he did that on purpose. He drove out there to that third line. You don't want to get caught up in chaos. Chaos can find you anywhere here. I don't think it matters where you sit. He's going to sit about mid-pack, which you're going to see separate packs start to develop as this run progresses, especially in this first fuel run. If we keep it caution-free, we saw it last year in the cutoff race at Daytona. That first pit cycle, you saw separate packs. You saw 4 distinctive packs that caught up with each other. You're seeing it now. The top 20 starting to scoot away from that last little car in line. If they go single file right here, Evan, I think we're in for a 20-car breakaway at least.
Yeah, we talk about how this race really doesn't matter until the end, and again, that's a half-truth. What that really means is you can't win the race until the end of this one. You can certainly lose it in a multitude of ways. You can make a mistake, be involved in an accident, or again, depending on kind of the complexion of this race, fall out of it. And what you'll see, certainly if/when there's green flag pit stops, is losing touch with the pack. That's going to be a theme we talk about a lot, right? As this lead pack tries to split apart into smaller groups, you don't want to be in that second pack that loses the draft. So there is going to be a concerted effort from the cars in the teens to stick close. Now, there is also this early on going to be some drivers who are fine with hanging out at the back. If you're in the mid to high 20s, I don't think you mind being in the back pack, but you don't want to fall out of touch of the leaders. So that's the key to look here early, is will these two packs actually separate, or will they just spread out a little bit like we're seeing right now?
Well, for the moment, listen, we do have a bit of a two-pack situation started to form up right around where that 18th place is concerned. Brendan Federer has kind of lost a bit of touch up to the leading group, but that can easily change in a hurry if there's even one bad stack up over on that inside line as we run down the back straightaway and in towards turn numbers 3 and 4. So the potential is always there for this pack to split up into 2, but based on what we saw in the duels, I think the likelihood that this pack is going to be staying all condensed into 1 up until the pit stop run is, I think, significantly higher.
Well, Evan, I go to your point here. You talk about you could lose this race in a multitude of ways. You're right. But in that last 10 laps, if you're not in that top 10 and you're further on back, if we're kind of strung out a little bit, or even if we close back together, this is a more difficult racetrack than Talladega to move yourself up. So, yeah, if you're sitting 20th, you theoretically have a chance to win it, right? Everybody's got a chance if the pileup happens in front of you. But if it goes green on those 20 laps, that third lane is really not a big option to go up there. It'll actually hurt you more than anything, because in an open setup world, you have an option to make your car have a little less drag, a little bit more, downforce, a little bit more skew on it. It lets you work the car instead of the car working you like these fixed setups. But the problem's going to run is, like, you look at the Xfinity and you look at the Craftsman Truck Series now, you can win that thing from 30th in 4 laps. You could work your way to the front. But in these cars, they're a lot bigger. You have less room. I mean, you see the room going right there. Going 3 wide, you see a lot of people snaking down a little bit. The side draft doesn't work as good. It makes it harder to advance your position from a further back, but you damn sure could lose a lot of time if you jump up there. Just look at Andrew Freenage tucking in line back here behind the 44.
He's going to tuck in line behind the number 44 car, the 44 this year, piloted, I should say, as they run in line by Michael Araya. Similar paint scheme to what we've seen in the past, and speed shop colors again, just a little bit of a different flair to it. It is worth noting that I do not anticipate Freenage to be participating full-time here in 2023. I have heard a rumor that if he's not on track, we might just see him up here in the RaceSpotTV booth with us once or twice over the course of the season. But this is a landmark event on the calendar, and he is here competing for a win in the Daytona 250. You saw the 6 car at Thomas George go bottom to top. He wants to lead the outside, but the outside is still a little bit discombobulated. The inside, the better line, nearly 10 laps in.
Here comes Matt Danson, though, and that 5 car going to have some good push behind over the 38 now. He used to be the 5. He's going to give a huge bump to the back end of the Series XM Mustang. And, of course, Danson himself was being shoved by Jeremy Richmond. Richmond's going to have to back off a little bit here to allow Danson room to work as they try to push that number 6 car to the front end of this train. The Logitech GLTZ Esports 38 car going to try to lock bumpers as we enter the tri-oval. Always a risky place to do it, especially when you want to tag on the right rear quarter panel like that, but that little bump, it's going to be enough to kind of separate the runs here. And now we can see that outside lane finally holding even here with the bottom side.
Oh, Nolan. I think anything Matt Danson does is great. I'm actually going to say it right now. 9 laps into the Daytona 250, that's your 2023 RSR champion this year, the 38 of Matt Danson. Great guy. A lot of people's left. He's the one that's going to step up and take that spot. He's pushing that 6 to Thomas George. He's working that back bumper. He's showing everybody, hey, look at me. Look what I can do on the outside. I can push you up here. We can potentially put ourselves in a position to win. And he's telling Thomas George, if you want to win this race, you stick up here on the 38's front bumper. That you assert dominance early in these races. You push somebody up there and say, hey, this win's going through me. Either I'm going to push you to the win or I'm going to duck out and take the win. You see him backing off just a little bit, starting to get a run, starting to materialize. Look at him on that outside. Get to rolling. That's what you want to see early. And here comes Danson for a big old shot at the back of that 6.
Matt Danson, the 2021 RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series champion. Could be ahead of that 3 wide there. Look out, the 52 of Casto. Going to be put a lap down early in this race, but what he did was he held the bottom, trying to force the leaders to go high, get around him, and what he did successfully in that is kind of absorb himself into the lead pack. That's going to aid his hopes of becoming the lucky dog should a caution flag come out. He's currently the only driver that will lap down. The field is about to catch up to Tom Wetmore, who's down the back stretch, and if a caution flag will fly anyways, wrecking in the very, very back, and it's Gregory Shull who's around.
Well, good news is, doesn't look like much damage on Shull's car, at least nothing too physical, so we should be able to get things rolling. Still have pretty much all of our field congested together. I was going to say, it looked like Castro kind of forced himself up into the line, but we're going to look to the race spot replay. 3 wide, and it was the 27 got hooked by Michael Kuczynski, who rebounded off of Shull, and that was just a big mess from there. Shull spun that car around and got nailed again as he slid back up the racetrack by Steve Tucker.
Yeah, right there's just a chain reaction that's just going to continuously flow throughout this race. I mean, everybody was weaving. Everybody was bobbing and weaving. The biggest difference between this car and the other 2 that we got is this thing drives like a boat. Like, driving it in the draft. I learned this. I attempted to run the NIS 500. I tell you right now, it didn't go well. I got to the lead, led half a lap, got wrecked. These things are tough to drive. These things make you work for it. And people who have won over the week, it has taken a lot of skill to win in this car right here. The Xfinity car in the truck race, okay, takes a little skill. You win this race in this car, son, pat yourself on the back, go get a drink of water or Gatorade, because you've earned it after that.
You've seen all of those endurance full-length 500-mile races, over the past week and change on the service. I've seen a lot of Daytona last week. I'm seeing a lot of it this week for the broadcast booth. And these races are long, and it's hard to pace yourself to get the distance. And again, I think that 3-wide situation didn't necessarily need to happen back there, and we're under the yellow early. Interesting that almost everybody's coming to pit road. We saw Steve Durham stay out. Durham was actually still on the lead lap, I believe, at the time of the yellow, so he's not even, trying to stay out to get a lap back. Steve Durham's just going to go to the race lead. Every single other race car, though, has come down pit road from the lead lap, as now Wetmore, who was way behind the pack, drives through. So it's a lot of 2 tires and fuel-only decisions, but Durham and Wetmore do not come down pit road. They're going to be first and second.
So the fuel strategy here with filling up gas under this caution period, I can't say I'm totally surprised by that. You've still got 90-some laps left. May as well come down, get a top off of fuel, seeing as how everybody might come down with you. The tire strategy, though, is where things get interesting for me, because these guys aren't going to have to take tires all that much. We talked about this at the duels of Daytona. We talk about it every time we come here. The tires don't have as much of an impact at the plate tracks as they do at some other facilities like Atlanta, like Chicagoland, Martinsville, et cetera, you know, going on down through pretty much every list of every other racetrack on the calendar, save for Talladega. So I find it interesting that a lot of drivers took tires at all, but I'm even more interested that a few drivers only elected to take 2.
I actually disagree. I think Daytona tires mean quite a bit. I mean, I can go on and on and on about this car and just how different and how foreign it is to a lot of people. You're very loose off the exit of these corners. 2 tires might actually tighten you up. You saw a lot of people fighting with handling so far in this race. There's been a lot of snaking, a lot of bobbing and weaving off the exit of these corners where it wants to snap loose. Once you get off the exit of 2, there's just a tiny bump right there. It's like hitting a pothole in South Carolina. You barely touch it, and it makes the back end wiggle just a little bit. It's doing that to these cars. It does it to the Xfinity cars, but not to the level of what it does here in these. I think the 2-tire call was a whole lot smarter here, just to say, okay, let's try to see if it tightens it up. It's not going to loosen you up any more than you already are. I mean, you're already fighting, you know, tooth and nail to keep this thing straight. But here, I think with an X-Gen car, it builds in just a little bit of tightness to it. Might make it just make it a little bit easier to drive. But I mean, 14 laps in, I'm surprised that 2 people stayed out though.
Yeah, Daytona always has been one historically referred to as a little bit more handling dependent than a Talladega, but certainly less so than other places. But, you know, pit strategy, you're looking at about 40-ish lap runs. I still think this keeps us outside of the one-stop window, but you never know. We'll see how the strategy continues to play out. It will be interesting, though, to see how both the Durham and Wetmore kind of mold back into the strategy, since they're kind of on their own, right? If it was, oh, 20 cars did this, 20 cars did that, they'd have options. They're kind of on an island. The worst case scenario for them is a green flag run right now, because they're going to be off cycle with everybody else. Everybody else would likely pit after they would run out of fuel, so they wouldn't be able to just choose to kind of throw away whatever strategy they're playing. They're definitely banking on a caution, maybe not immediately, but they think there's going to be a couple more accidents before this race kind of gets to that mid-range rhythm. Pace car going to dive off it in, though, and Steve Durham as the control car going to be on the inside. Headed to the Geico restart zone. Green flag back in the air with 86 laps to go in Daytona.
Solid launch this time around from the outside line as Pancari being shoved by William Schmidt. Durham leading the train for the first time down low. We'll see what the tank car can do as Tom Wetmore tries to push him clear of the number 35. He'll do so as we run it off of turn number 2 to the back straightaway. And already that inside lane got the momentum back underneath them.
Yeah, you see the bottom lane actually picking up steam. That outside lane hasn't done it as Tom Wetmore doesn't want to run second. Matt Danson does not want to run second. That Roadhouse machine, that Lube Tech 51 or Tube Tech 51, I don't know, lube is on the mind with the Amazon oils we have around here. He wants to lead. He goes to the outside. First time we've seen somebody on the outside take the lead so far. 15 laps in, crossing it for 16. Let's see if Danson jumps to the bottom or if he's content to work. Nope, outside with Brett Pancari.
Pancari going to lead that outside, but it's, I should say, move that charge to the outside, but it's Danson leading. One of your championship 4 contenders from the Cup Series last year. I've already talked about the fact that he's got a Winter Series title. He is looking for that elusive Cup Series championship. Could this be the year for Matt Danson? It is a good start to early as he looks to get his first lap led of the afternoon. So far, bonus points locked up by Wetmore with 1 lap led, Durham with 2, Pancari with 12. A bonus point available for every lap led, every driver who leads a lap, and then you'll get an additional bonus point to if you lead the most. Some shuffling mid-pack, but there's the first point of 2023 for Matt Danson.
And just like I mentioned before, that outside lane, he just needs a good push behind it, and now we can get the momentum rolling. Pancari's going to push both himself and Danson clear. If they both wanted to, they could clear down to the bottom, but now not before Tom Wetmore is going to get the nose in. But off turn number 2, that high line is where all the speed's at, and now they run the risk of having the top 3 on the high side. Push them all clear. William Schmidt Will the 79 duck down low to pick up the bottom? No, he will not. So the outside lane staying firm and loyal with one another. Nobody's willing to make any kind of bold moves by going for some more flashy lane changes to hang on to the race lead. I mean, no point. You're going to lose it anyway within the next 3 laps. You've got over 80 to go.
Yeah, I mean, get points when you can get them. It's free points to lead a lap. You know, you get out here, you want to take the lead, you want to get your lap. Wetmore, I believe he got his lap led there. Get it while the getting's good. You got 2 solid lanes now that are starting to form here. I mean, Brett Bakari's telling you right now, he led a bunch of laps there in the opening portion. He can push. He can push really hard. That's an aggressive push down there at the bottom from Durham. He's all over the back bumper of that Chevy. I mean, he's painting that sucker. But you see how you start to break apart? That third car in line, that's really the money spot. If you're Miller right there, you want to stay tucked up just a little bit, about 2 or 3 inches away from that back bumper to keep that momentum going, to keep the suck on that bottom lane working, like the outside. You can't have moves like that either. You can't bobble if you're the 10.
And you can see the 10 moves up there. You can do that when you've got no lane up top, right? So if you're Durham, you can stick the nose out, get some fresh air. I think it's also a little bit a half move of kind of monitoring what's going on up top. You might want to jump up and take the momentum from the top side if Danson and company are going to push past you, but you're right on the bottom. You can't afford to slide up that little bit because into the corner, that top lane's going to get lower and lower as the night goes down, or you see the 13 car, I should say, go up to the outside. So Jeremy Miller doing exactly what we talked about. One car sideways into the wall. I think that's Jeremy Richmond who got out of shape on his own. They're going to scatter 3 wide. I think we'll hang on. And now up front, it's Miller to the sucker hole as it's Danson back to the race lead.
That was impressive that Richmond was able to hang on to that car as well as he did and not absolutely demolish the field. I think I'm starting to see what you're talking about, Terry, about how the tires can mean quite a little bit when you get loose off these corners. So it's not so much the pace that it makes the difference on. It's obviously about overall handling of the race car. But like you said, Danson pulling clear. And even though they're clear all the way back to about the 6th position on the racetrack, they are still ripping it on that outside line. They know that's where all the speed is. You can get some good pushers up there.
Yeah, and you look at what Jeremy Richmond did on that pit stop. He took no tires. That was a fuel-only stop. So a lot of these drivers that are dealing with handling issues, it's because you're running the bottom. You're right. The outside lane is really going to be the place that you're going to go. That's the duels showed it. I mean, the duels were high side. You could rip it. You could push your way all the way up to the front. You could figure things out. You had a whole lot more to go. If we stay on board right here with that 98, it's a great opportunity to prove my point. If we were on the old style Daytona, you would see a lot of bumping. You'd see the back end start to bounce up and down like a basketball. But look at the exit of the corner. You see how we had to fight to hold it down? Just a little bit of a smidge on that steering wheel to push it back down to paint that yellow line. You'll see it off the exit of 2 with any car you go in the field, whether you're in 3 cars deep, 10 cars deep, or you're the race leader. It is a handful and a half in this place. Like, he catches the wind, he catches it. You see it starting to bottom out. They're hitting the bumps, it's bottoming out, it's starting to spark a little bit. iRacing's fantastic with their graphics here. And off the exit of the corner, he can't necessarily mash the gas down. Everybody's juking and driving, trying to find places. And if you slip up, like you just saw back there behind us, with whoever, I think that's the 10 car, got loose, got off the exit of the corner, in the middle he goes, everybody else passes him.
We saw that happen with Miller when we had that scare off of 4. Miller went to the middle. It looked like he was dropping to the back, and now somehow he's been able to recover to get right back to be in the 2nd car in line on the outside. 5 years ago, if you got stuck in the middle, nobody would dare go with you. Now there's a chance, but a yellow behind. It's the 2nd of the afternoon. There's 1 car in the tri-oval grass. It's the 03 of Brian Dixon. And I'm curious what caused this, because there's a couple of other drivers apologizing over the radio, so I don't think Dixon is where this started, but the 03 is certainly the car that went around.
Well, it actually started around the mid-pack, it looked like. Steve Durham had a situation just as Jimmy Richmond did. Got caught in the sucker hole, got loose, and stacked up, went into the outside wall. That checked up the entire field, and Dixon, he got into the back end of the 8 and then spun it out on his own, trying to avoid all of this, and he got absolutely clocked by somebody as he came back up onto the racetrack. So it was another kind of a solo car spin, but it was a massive chain reaction that started right around the 7th or 8th row total in our double file trains.
And I tell you, it's not going to be the first nor the last time that we see a car have handling issues on their own. Let's watch the 10 of Steve Durham again, and you'll see it was turn 4 where the car got a little bit loose. And I noticed this several other times last week during the iRacing Daytona 500 broadcasts, and Terry was just talking about it, Nolan, not all that long ago, is, you know, the car is going to start to float and get light. And watch this, off of 4, you can see he's already struggling a little bit, and it gets loose. He saves the race car, but it's that accordion effect of checkups which eventually leads to the spin of Dixon.
Right there, you saw him absolutely get clocked by, I think that was Matthew Marr in the 23, I think, that hit the 03 Boo Esports machine as he slid back up onto the racetrack. As you see the whole field scramble right there, I think the 03 got just in the back of the 8, slid back up the track, and nothing that Marr could do in that situation.
Yeah, that these cars are light on their feet. They're not they're not the best things to plant down to the ground, and you saw handling's going to be an issue in this race. I mean, I don't know if we showed the track temp or whatnot, but it seems like a hotter day. You know, the hotter we get on the racetrack, the worse we're going to get as we look at the track conditions. It's 85-degree track temp. That might not mean a lot to a lot of people, but when you get cars like this at a place like this with, you know, very minimal bumps, and I got to walk this place. iRacing did a phenomenal job scanning it because it is absolutely accurate. I mean, down to the plane taking off in the back to the infield, if you get an aerial shot of what everything looks like from the kart track over there. I wish we had an outside shot. There's the kart track in turns 3 and 4 right there, where I could even see where I was standing to actually shoot my camera shot of the corner going in the kart track. Everything is identical of what you want. You got the Rolex side in there. They did this just perfect justice to do this race, and I wish we did have an outside shot to see the dirt track that sits all the way out there on the exit of turns 1 and 2, as we get a drone shot here, but just phenomenal. But the handling is going to be crazy, as I believe Raleigh Grant Davis stayed out, and yeah, there's the 24.
He's the lone driver to stay out this time through. Remember, we had 2 drivers who did not pit last time. This time, the magic number is 1. So Grant Davis will stay out, become the race leader. We'll see if that's a long-term solution or if he's just planning on coming right back down to pit road. That's a race car that you can never miss in one of these RSR races with the bright Jeff Gordon-esque flames on his 24 Chevy. Also worth noting that Brian Dixon has claimed responsibility for the incident, so the 03 car will receive an end of the longest line penalty as the lights go out on top of the pace car, and Dixon and co blend onto the racetrack just in front of the pace car. There's Dixon, there's Steve Tucker. They're gonna I guess I should say they did stay on pit road for as long as possible, trying to get damage repaired before they had to get out, and they're going to have to hustle to catch the field if they want to be there by the time we go green.
So it's Davis to lead the way on the inside, from Miller, from George, Danson, Cato, and Phillip, the top 3 rows. So there's a lot of big name hitters up here to kick things off for the Daytona 250, and I think this is kind of the big story behind all of this, right? Is the fact that even though we talk about Daytona sometimes being a little bit of a crapshoot, it does still take some skill to be able to run near the front. As you can see, you got a lot of those usual names that we see up in front of the mile and a half at the short track still leading the way, and is that Ross Cato I see having a bit of lunch?
What's he eating? Is that a tapas? Is that a what is it? What's he eating down there?
Looks like a burrito.
Looks like a...
Or is it just a loaf of bread?
Oh, he ain't that... No, he ain't that wild. There's no butter on that bread. If he's eating a loaf of bread with that butter, something's wrong. Look at the water. Hydration's key. What the hell is he eating? Can we yank... Somebody send Ross Cato a message. We got to find out what he's eating. I'm about to eat some Hot Pockets, though.
Where's Clint? We got to dial him up on the radio. We'll try to find out what he's eating. Ross Cato going to restart this race from the inside lane, third in line. Up front, though, Grant Davis stays out. He's the new race leader of the Daytona 250. Green flag back in the air.
Grant Davis got a bit of a jump on the field, but that's only going to hinder him here as Jeremy Miller and Thomas George get linked up early. Davis is going to fall back to dancing. This is part of the hazard of trying to get an early jump off out of the gate is now. That's going to stack that inside line up, and already George abandoning Miller to go for the race lead.
Yeah, people jumping out to the outside there. They're leaving everybody to the bottom. The 13 of Miller goes on the outside with Agnell Phillip pushing him, and Nazi Major sitting in that third spot. Outside starting to look strong here as Thomas George is making a run there with Grant Davis on the bottom.
Up front, it is Jeremy Miller. Thought about going low. He'll stick with the top side. And it is Miller 1, Phillip 2. First lap led for the number 13 Toyota. Still 41 cars on the lead lap in this race. The only driver not on the lead lap is Matt Mara. He got damaged in a previous incident. He currently runs in last place in 42nd.
Agnell Phillip trying to make a run now for the race lead over to the bottom, and Phillip gonna get the 851 Pro Chevrolet up to the point. Now this is big. Remember, Phillip led a good chunk of last year's opening race over at Daytona, but misfortune ended up befalling. It was late in the race, and George gonna abandon him to go for the top side. Seems to me like George really wants to be the one leading this race here so far early on, which I find unusual. Usually this early on, you're the one that's more content to beat the pusher, as it allows us to save a bit more fuel and wait for the later runs.
Heck no, I want to lead every lap. The mentality that most of these guys have, especially in RSR, is if you're leading, you can't get in trouble. If you find yourself on that outside lane right now, you know you're about to be leading something as Thomas George gets a massive shot because of the checkup on the bottom. You saw the 38 kind of wiggle with the 12 as there goes the 13 to Jeremy Miller. He's going for the race lead to lead for the first time here this afternoon. These drivers got that dog in them. They want to lead every lap. They want to be out front. And that 13 Camaro doing or Camry. Look at me, Camaro. I want a Chevy. I want a better Chevy than my Trailblazer. But Ford versus Toyota up here on the high side with Chevy's pushing the mess out of them.
Pretty good split, I'd say, by the way. Manufacturer representation, always going to be more Chevys. That's the correct call, but a decent split, I would say, throughout the field, as it is the 6 Ford, though, leading up on the outside. So Thomas George being pushed by Grant Davis as we are past 1/4 distance through this season opening Daytona 250 round 1 of 30 in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Miller trying to fight back on the bottom. How about Nazi Major on the inside? What will we see this year out of the 82? As he becomes a bit more of an RSR veteran with every passing year. He's got 2 championship favorites right on his bumper. That's a pretty strong bottom line, but the outside still stronger by 2 car lengths.
And Miller down to the bottom with Nazi Major shoving him. And Nazi Major, a driver that's been making waves in the RSR as of late, seeing if we can get a run going. But they don't have anything for the 3-car tandem up on the top shelf, as it was Schmidt to push Davis into George and give them a bit of a boost down into turn numbers 3 and 4. Miller will have the run through the middle of the corner, but off the exit, that outside lane will always reign supreme, and Thomas George will be able to lead another lap at the line to lead lap number 31. The only problem so far we've seen with that outside lane, it has been by far the more unstable of the 2.
Well, you have to push the hardest on the outside lane to keep the forward momentum going. So you're going to see a lot more snaky, a lot more drop it back a little bit more disorganization. But if you get enough people up there with that organization, with a little co-opetition, you'll be able to push a little harder. The bottom doesn't have to push as hard because you have that slower distance around the racetrack. It's the shortest way around that outside lane. Now that it's starting to disconnect, you see the 24 backed off the 6, 13, 82, pushing all the way up. They're going to be able to have this race lead by the time they come to the start-finish line.
And you can see this lead pack side by side, first through 24th in the running order. Coming through the trial oval now, there they are. That's a secondary pack of race cars representing 25th through 33rd. So we have seen this race break into two major groups as we work lap 33, and the pushing very aggressive down the Daytona super stretch, but the outside now finds themselves with the lead by 2. Once upon a time, guys, you got clear on the outside on iRacing, you would go right to the bottom. The bottom was the ride line, but I've been seeing a lot more patience. Drivers get clear, but they think, listen, the top's the place to be right now. Why would I leave it? Don't just jump down to the bottom as a default. And it looks like the 6 of George is going to keep it up there, and right now, at least, that bodes well for the momentum on the outermost lane.
The outermost lane has so far held momentum all throughout the duration of this race, saving that opening run before the outside can get themselves established. But now that you've got, I think, all of the pushers up to the top side, it looks like we'll be able to get ourselves running with things up there. So Thomas George will continue to lead the way, but obviously going to be burning the most fuel. Oh, how about Tom Wetmore making the jump to the inside of the Tube Tech Chevrolet?
Well, I did find out what Ross Cato's eating. He's eating a bagel. The real question I should have asked, did he have cream cheese on it or not? And what kind of cream cheese would he have had on it?
What kind of bagel is that?
Exactly.
What?
It's a
bagel. That was a loaf of bread.
Oh, listen, don't shoot the messenger. It was a bagel. I don't know what kind of bagel, but here's our bagel eating guy right here. He's got a nice beard. I do like the Brave stuff behind him. The only thing I don't like about him is he drives a Ford. Anything other than that, but the bagel choice was kind of weird. You're right. I don't know what kind of bagel it was. I'm not a bagel aficionado. That's the kind of guy I am. Do I look like the bagel dude? No. But if you could give me a hand signal, give me 1 finger for cream cheese, 2 blinks for a flavored cream cheese, and maybe if he wins, hell, eat a bagel every race. I don't know. I would eat a bagel if I won the 500 or if I won the RSR Daytona. Yeah, eating a bagel. He's down there just bageling it up. But we could totally do some research on what kind of bagels look like a loaf of bread.
I mean, I don't have any issue with eating a bagel at night. In fact, I partake in such a tradition many times. I thought what made it a bagel was the shape.
No,
it was a round thing with a hole in it. I don't think you can just...
anything could be a bagel, Evan.
But then where's the line? That's I thought the bagel was the method of consumption, the delivery vehicle for the bread.
Does the peanut butter sandwich I have for dinner count as a bagel now?
Exactly, right? If any piece of bread counts as a bagel, what's a bagel? Anyways, he's eating a bagel. If he wins this race, we'll grill him on it. If we got any bagel companies out there, DMs are open. Let's get a sponsored segment.
All I'm gonna say is don't do that. Oh man.
That's good advice. Don't do that.
Oh, don't do that. What a move. If you're the 24, you're lucky that the 51 is nice. If you're the 51, he needs to come down pit road here in about 3 laps and get a pair of underwear, because that almost took this field out. The smallest amount of damage, boys, in these cars. I barely got touched on the right side of the car, and my wheel was canted 90 degrees to the right. So the 24 is very lucky that he was able to make that move. While it was a ballsy move, it was a move you don't want to make this early.
It was almost not clear. In fact, probably, again, wasn't clear if it wasn't for Wetmore giving the 24 a break. And after I had said, look at all the patience, right? Staying on the outside, not feeling pressured or forced to go to the inside. The 24 makes a big swing at it, and at least in the short term, doesn't pay off, because the outside clear of the inside by some 4 car lengths. Thomas George back to the front of the field. Michael Johnson trying to get it back up there, but one driver I want to mention, and it is that Wetmore machine who maybe cut a bit of a break, some may say, to the bold move from that 24 machine, guys. But Tom Wetmore started this race 42nd position as the only provisional in the field, as we see Danson now go to the bottom and make a run to the lead. Wetmore did not race in the duels. He was the highest finishing driver from points last year that did not race in the duels. He got that 1 spot, and he has passed 36 race cars to get right up into the mix well before halfway.
Still before halfway, but now a very distinct break in the pack has begun to form as Danson going to make the move for the outside to go for the lead now. You got all your double file racing here, which goes down all the way back to about 21st place. Then you got 22nd on back in the trade of their own, hanging about maybe about 2 seconds or so off of the race leaders. But Danson making the move for the lead, and he'll take it around the outside line. Now being pushed by Thomas George. Schmidt running the bottom with Grant Davis down low. Tom Wetmore also in line. It's a bit of a 3-car break from the top end to get to 4th in line. They got about 1 car in between them, but Braden Whitaker looking to close the gap.
Did some research on our bagel conversation. It had to be bagel bread. Different type of bread. I Googled it. It's pretty interesting to know there's a lot of different type of bagel breads out there. But the race lead is like a loaf of bread. It's hard to slice. Hard to slap anything on it, and if you do, you're probably going to get jammed. If somebody jumps to the middle, tried to at least. That was the was that the 39 there? I can't read numbers. I'm blind here. It's 39 of Johnson trying to jump to the outside. Is it going to work here? Is going to go up there behind Thomas George as the top or the bottom line is still doing it. It's good Lord. What a blocking everywhere. But way to jinx it, Evan. Now they're aggressive.
Yeah, they are no longer committed to being patient, sticking with the line. The second somebody else gets the momentum, they are right there to steal it as quick as they can. And you saw it there with Schmidt going from the bottom of the racetrack to the top to get back in front of the 24. Now he looks low. Miller was making a charge, but the push going to come from Davis. The outside stays the place to be. We also reference, in these races, needing to get to the end and needing to be in the conversation late. And I always like to say the first 3 quarters is like a big R&D session, and maybe not necessarily on the cars in the draft, right? I think that was more so a story last year. New next-gen cars, drivers learning them, learning the draft model, and there have certainly continued to be updates to the draft model, been updates to these cars, but I think more or less these drivers comfortable in them, certainly compared to where they were a year ago. This is really an R&D for the cars around you, right? In a series like this full-time, where you're racing with the same cars every week, you have teammates, you have acquaintances and friends that you've raced with for years. You know what the plan is if you can race with those cars. You know how they race, if you're good, if you push them, do they have to push you, what's most comfortable. What you don't know is all the new drivers, right? Guys you haven't raced with. There's always a turnover. There's always new faces coming in for the Winter Series, making their first Cup starts, maybe returning to the Cup Series after some time off. How nice are they going to play? I think all these big blocks and all these defensive and aggressive moves are telling those stories that everyone's trying to learn, and they're starting to figure out how these drivers are approaching this race as this lead pack is about to approach 2 lapped cars.
The lap cars will stay down low while the leading pack goes around the high side. Again, the main pack gets a bit disconjointed, but the top 4 breaking clear. So Wolsifer, Cato, Phillip, and Miller all going to break clear. Schmidt had to jump up to the high side with Davis and Wetmore in tow, while it is Steve Tucker and Joseph Tice, the 2 lap cars on the bottom, that will pick up the remains of the inside line. But now he's gone top to bottom. Ross Cato up to the top. Wolsifer trying to follow. There was no room, so he had to quickly duck back in right in front of the lap cars, or he would have been caught in the sucker hole.
Yeah, the old bagel eater herself out there on the outside making moves. But Evan, to your point, people make different moves. You know what the grizzly old RSR veterans are going to do. You don't know what the new blood's going to do that comes in a series, but it's the old dogs that are standing guard going, no, man, you new kids ain't going to come in here and push us around. You ain't going to come in here and win this race, because they're making the moves to put themselves in the front. They're slicing and dicing up through this field. Just a little while ago, we wasn't talking Ross Cato until he slapped him on the screen, him eating a bagel bread or whatever it is. But now he's up here in the front. You're starting to see Manazzi Major up here, Thomas George working up, and then you got a rookie down here. P3, you got the 56. Then you go back here to 11th. You got Alex Light, who's making his first start in the Cup Series here this evening. And then you're starting to see the rookies Pooler coming up here to make a run to this top 10. First time in the top 12 this afternoon. A lot of new faces here. But I think the real question we should be asking is, who's going to trigger the big one? Is it going to be the Grizzly Vets, or is it going to be one of the rookies?
That is always the concern. Will you have a big one? Or will so many drivers hang back, avoiding a big one, that they take themselves out of the race? There is no solid strategy. You just kind of have to hope and pray, to be honest. That is part of super speedway racing. It does take talent. It does help to be good, but it really helps to be lucky in a race like this. And we are now 5 laps shy of being halfway home in this season opener. Miller still leads this little bit of a discombobulated lead pack now. It is still that magic number of 21. A couple of cars have trailed off. We've lost Fetter Place, Stanford, and Bergoli. They're starting to trickle back to the second pack that was 25th on the back. So as we lose some cars out of the lead pack, it doesn't seem to be calming things down much, but I think this is the most disconjointed we've seen the lead pack all night.
Yeah, I don't know what it's been with this last restart or so, but that lead pack has just been left, right, front, and center. But now it looks like finally they're going to get themselves, a bit more of an organized fashion. We're single file around the bottom all the way back till about the 6th position. For there, you've got Tom Wetmore going side by side with Cody Harris, being pushed by Matt Danzig. They were single file. They just jumped out of line on the front straightaway here as you run it back down into turn numbers 1 and 2 down for the Daytona super stretch. So far, Jeremy Miller being shoved by Agno Phillip, and Phillip in the 851 Pro Chevy being able to save quite a bit of fuel, but you can see him poking the nose out on the right-hand side. There is a reason for that one. It's actually a good way to get a bit of air into that grill and keep those temperatures cool, allow you to push a little bit harder.
Yeah, but you don't want to get too crazy with it because it lets the guy behind you actually put the nose in there. You want to go about 1 inch, 2 inches up. The Xfinity cars are a little bit different, where you kind of have to be a little weird about it. You have to kind of bobble up a little bit. The lead car in those, you want them to off-cant themselves to you, so that way the second car runs the bottom and the lead car goes up and kind of hangs in the middle of your nose, which is why I'm kind of surprised that Agnell Phillips not telling Jeremy Miller that, hey, go up just a little bit, run a little bit off the bottom. Don't get too crazy with it. Don't let the guys behind us catch the draft of you, but actually put yourself in a position to where I can get air without losing my spot, because you don't know what Wolfsire is going to do behind you. You don't know what Smith's going to do. You don't know what Light's going to do in that 5th place position. So I think these two up front can kind of be playing just a little bit more gamesmanship with each other, where if the 13 comes up off that bottom, you know that the 94 Phillips not going to put himself in a compromised position that's going to cost him early points this far of the season, in which, Evan, you have to be thinking points racing starting at Daytona. A lot of these drivers right here, they're points racing in the back of their mind.
It's so tough for drivers to think about that, but in a season opener, it's very easy to overlook it, right? You can look at it and say, listen, I'm going for the race win. If I don't get it, it is what it is. I wreck trying. But it's funny. You get back here to Daytona for the regular season finale, and everyone's thinking, oh, man, I'm by 5 or I'm out by 10, and then I really got a points race. Both races are worth equally as many points. Right, you can't get too near side. Oh, look out into the outside goes the 5. They're gonna get squished, and now it's gonna have to condense back down into 1. Somehow we're gonna make it happen, but Joseph Tice took a hip check and somehow survives to tell about it.
All but Joseph Tice, though, as that car has got a lot of damage to the back end and nobody's wanting to work with him at all. So Tice going to fall all the way to the back end of this field and might not even be able to link up with the rear end before they find themselves tumbling well and truly out of the draft. As we'll jump back up to look at the race leaders, as now everybody in behind. And there it is, Tice making the call to come down to pit road. He's got a meatball flag. No wonder he was so slow. The number 5's day effectively over.
Man, that's crazy. I told you the little bit of damage you get on these cars is he just takes it. He takes a push. Oh, bottom thought they were clear. No, I don't know. Who was that on the bottom? What's this, the car number? Can't really tell. He's going. Thought they were clear in the tri-oval. No, the 8 just termed up there. That's Light in the 8 machine. That's one of the rookies we talked about that's coming over here from the Winter Series. Just went up. Don't know if the car kind of pushed tight, wasn't able to turn as much, but pushed their way there. And wow, what a shot Because, I mean, that just tore the whole right side of that thing to pieces.
So it's a tough break for both Light and, of course, for the 5. It was already a bad enough night for Joseph Tice because he was running in that lead pack as a lap-down race car. And now, to Nolan's point, effectively out of this race because he's on pit road for some extended service. There are a couple of drivers whose nights are done. Matthew Marr has gone to the garage, so has Eric Papanow. That's it, though. 40 cars still officially in this race. That would mean 39 of them are on the racetrack currently. 3 drivers lap down, Tucker, Dixon, and Shaw, all racing for the lucky dog spot. Joseph Tice 2 laps down and counting as his team tries to patch back together that number 5 Chevrolet. Up front, though, single filing things out, guys, and here's where it starts to get a little bit fun. Remember Grant Davis, who did not come down pit road the last caution flag cycle. He is running in 15th right now, and he has been out there for 40 laps on fuel. Now, the yellow flag helped because he's able to save a little bit of fuel, but he is going to need to pit much sooner than everybody else who pitted 28 laps ago. So don't be shocked if the 24 spits out of line solo. There's 47 laps to go in this race. Man, would he really like to be able to get to 42 to go, 41 to go, to try to make it his final needed pit service for the night. But I just don't know if the 24 can do that, so that's something to watch.
Single file like we're playing Snake at the World Center of Racing as the field runs down to the turn numbers 1 and 2, and we're well past the halfway point at this point. I have a feeling this is where we're going to be really seeing all these guys having to take their moves a bit more cautiously here. You can tell everybody's all of a sudden very hesitant to make any kind of moves to jump to the top end. I think that incident there with Joseph Tice was kind of the kick in the seat for these guys to realize, okay, we have a long way to go. It might be a bit too soon to be trying to make some big moves like that one. So now we're going to see these guys condense on down. This could also mean, though, that some drivers might be getting ready for pit stops. One place you don't want to be if you're going to get set to come on down the pit road is on that outside lane.
Well, I want to go back to Mr. Pisoko's point. With that 24, he's 43 laps into a fuel run. He's coming down, and he's going to come down solo unless he comes on the radio and says, hey, you know, if he gets to lap 60, I think he's good. But can he make it to lap 60? That's going to be the real kick in the pants. He's probably back there right now in the 50. He's back there a little further on back, now in the 15th spot, just holding serve, kind of relaxing a little bit, probably 3/4 throttle in it, trying to save as much as he possibly can. But at lap 60, I would expect every single driver to come down because that puts you no more pit stops. You're seeing it now. I mean, with the 24 machine, 44 laps, you can go 40 laps. If you come down at lap 60, guarantees you're not coming back in, even unless a caution comes out. Obviously, you'll come in for green, white checkers just to add a little insurance in the bank. But they're single filed for a reason. They go ride that bottom little conga line. Just come down pit road 4 to 5 laps. You're going to see everybody come in.
So we wait to see that decision for everybody to head down to the pit lane. And again, when that pit stop has to come for Grant Davis sooner, will he be able to hang on long enough for everybody else to join?
Whoa!
Spinner, look out. It's race leader Jeremy Miller.
Don't stop.
Whoa!
Oh,
The
stop on the track.
13,
Keep
now
going.
look out as he comes back onto the
why
track.
would you stop?
And there's the yellow.
Come on.
Well, we got another one spinning down there. I think Grant Davis also locked it up, coming on into pit road as you saw him facing backwards in the pit lane.
Yeah, but if you're gonna spin it back to track, don't stop. Put your sucker in gear. Pay the price. Pay the piper what you did. If you lock it up coming on pit road, don't stop. I mean, he got turned right there, Agnell Phillip. You take the spin. You're all the way down there. You're trying to save it. You're driving it. You're driving it. You're driving it. Don't turn back on the racetrack. You got full control of that car to sling that thing to the right and go down pit road. The 24, locked it up coming on pit road because he had to come down pit lane. But if you're the 13 right there, what the hell? Like the 24 was trying not to go on pit road. He saw the caution come out, right? He saw the caution waving. He comes down pit road. He's trapped. He's going to take a black flag there. He's going to take it now, but you're already there. Stay on pit road. But the 13, drive through that, go through the grass. You know, you brought out the caution. You see here, I mean, we'll listen to the throttle, turn, gun it, stay in fourth, downshift here, work it. You're already stopped, and then just continue to proceed to roll back on the track to stop to get the caution. That's dumb.
It's only going to be the third yellow we have seen so far tonight. Agno Phillip apologetic for getting into the back of him. So Agno Phillip from the front of the field. I don't think going to have to worry about any front end damage on that race car, but well, there's not going to be a lot of insurance available when it comes to fuel, because this is going to be wholesale service, and what it's going to do is take away an exciting green flag cycle of pit service from us. Everyone's going to come down pit road with 42 laps to go in this race, and this may be the money stop. It's going to happen under yellow, but the pressure is high. Do not make a mistake. You got to set yourself up for the end of the race right here, right now.
Phillip is in, Schmidt in behind, and so is just about the rest of the field. Couple of drivers missing their boxes. Wolsifer and Light both having to back up. That's going to cost them a few tenths of a second. Now Phillip leads them in. Will he also be the one to lead them on out is going to be the big ticket question. Here's again a few more drivers missing their stalls, courtesy of the concrete boxes. We mentioned before, track temperature 79 degrees Fahrenheit. That's relatively cool for a racetrack. So that concrete going to be a little bit slick. Schmidt going to be second off the pit road. Phillip wins the race off pit road.
This actually is going to be pretty entertaining, because if you sit here and think about this for a second, now your strategy kind of got thrown out the window. If you're a lot of these drivers, they could have went to 64, 65, maybe even lap 66. They could have pressed that a little bit further right there to potentially set themselves up in a box for a green-white checkered finish. You know, it's Daytona. It's a super speedway. You kind of expect to see that type and that product of racing. You don't build that in the bank right here. You know, we got 42 laps to go. If we get 2 green-white checkers, maybe even 3, because it's unlimited attempts, well, might be finding yourself down pit road again. Or if we get a caution, you know, in about 10, 15 laps, everybody should come down and maybe top off. Maybe start flipping that switch on and off to save just a little bit extra. But it's not go time yet. We'll be 40 to go when we take the green flag. You can't flip that switch and go full-on crazy train. You got to, you know, kind of simmer down a little bit, pull a little Dolly Parton strategy.
Tell them that.
I hope they're listening. I mean, if
I
they
don't
were
think they're
listening.
gonna listen.
If we were listening, we went and turned it back on the racetrack to bring a caution out.
I don't think they're listening. That's my thing. I think they have, like, certainly if we get out of the yellow, cars are going to be coming back down to the pit lane. They're going to want to get some insurance. We've talked about handling a little bit here tonight as well. You know, when it comes to handling, if you do a 20-lap run, you're going to want to get tires. That all makes sense. I just think they're going to see a green light on their fuel number to the end of the race and say, all right, let's do it. And I'm a little bit worried. Look at all those race cars. Get a good look at your favorite paint scheme, because I don't know how much longer it's going to be on the chassis for. This thing could... Is he still eating the bagel?
Yeah, so he got the bagel. I'm eating Hot Pockets. So I'm having...
How
pepperoni.
big is this man's bagel? He's been eating it for an hour.
It's bagel bread, Evan. So the bagel bread is a whole loaf of bread, practically.
Before it's cut into a bagel?
That's a technicality.
Yeah,
you know
so
it.
yeah, so it's bagel bread, right? So it's a whole loaf of bread made out of a different type of wheat.
Where do you... is he buying this from a wholesaler?
I mean, you would have to technically buy it from Whole Foods. He seems like the type of guy who shops at Whole Foods. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ross Cato.
I get the vibe.
I got my Hot Pockets, I believe, from Food Lion. I don't think we got anywhere crazy. I mean, yeah, it's pepperoni, and it's a lot less healthy than what, you know, the bagel bread was at the moment.
Well, last time we checked in with Bagel Boy, he was running in 5th position. He is now in 9th. So we'll see how he does. As I even got myself on that one. Ross Cato's running in 9th position. That's going to be on the inside of row number 5. Let's see how the final 40 laps of this race will play out. Grant Davis, after all of that, is on the front row. Green flag in the air.
Oh boy, Agno Phillip trying to
Bagel
get
boy,
the
not
momentum.
boy.
Yeah, bagel.
Up on the outside line as Grant Davis going to push up to clear. So Davis making the run to get to the top shelf immediately. Did not want to risk staying on the bottom. Davis has seen where that run is on the outside lane on these restarts all night long. And he's going to make sure to capitalize on it this time as he pulls up in front of the 851 Pro Chevrolet.
Man, look at that outside lane go. All 5 cars got cleared on that outside. If that's not eye-opening to the rest of this field, and if you're going to restart, that outside lane's where you want to go, but now it's not. The fast cars have kind of moved. You got Light up there on that 8 machine, just bottlenecked this field, and Danson just slapped him like a rag doll and said, move. You're a rookie here. I'm going to lead this pack. I'm winning this race. Jumps out there, pushes him out of line. Here goes the 38 of Danson, outside leading, and he's got, who is that on his back bumper? That would be the 44 of Lariah. Oh, big turn, big crash.
In front of the
that's
field,
everybody.
And there goes the second half of the lead pack. The caution is out. And that may be the big one for tonight. A dozen race cars involved in this one. It all started when that 48 of Braden Whitaker got turned around. 3 wide, de facto 4 wide. That's just never going to work.
All kicked off with the 48 of Braden Whitaker after he got tipped around by Paul Bergoli. And this happened all the way back in turns 1 and 2. Right there's the hit. Around goes the 48. And here comes the field slamming in behind. And there's just not a whole lot that you can do in that type of situation. You saw a few cars took some hefty whacks to the outside wall. Most notably, Sean Castell, the 34 of Brandon Fetterplace, absolutely nailed the wall. You see them wrecking back up in front. Right there, they got into the outside wall, and a whole chunk of drivers came in behind. I believe I saw the 20 of Freenosh get into this one. Stanford was in it. Kuczynski got a big piece of this one. Woodruff wasn't escaped unharmed. I think Morano might have gotten a bit of it as the 48 of Whitaker, talked about him before, getting involved in this one, and obviously then Andrew Phipps with the big ride as well.
Can we go on board with the trigger point of this? Is that the 33? Or was I seeing numbers? Who was that right there that kind of popped us all off? It just tapped him.
It was, yeah, the 3 of Paul Bergoli.
The 3 of Bergoli. What? Where was he going?
4 wide.
Wait, like, where? If we could get a shot on board, here we go. Where were you going? Like, where are you going in that situation? There is no room for 4 wide. 3 wide's pushing it. Where in the world were you going? If you could take it 4 wide at Daytona, I'll take somebody to Vegas, and I'm going to put all my money on what they tell me to do. Like, just go, we'll go to Vegas. We'll visit you, Evan, and be like, hey, tell me what number and what color, and I'm going to let this thing ride to the end of the night. Where was the daylight in that shot?
Well, what did we talk about 5 minutes ago? You said it's not go time. Everyone's going to be smart, and
I lied. All right.
Into that. Yeah, I think people are seeing 36 to go and thinking it's 3.6 miles before the checker. Probably avoidable. He's still eating the bagel.
I wanted to eat my
How
hot
big?
pocket.
Is that a loaf?
Yeah.
How would he call that?
It's
He's
bagel
got to be on a
bread.
second loaf.
It's the same bread. He eats it under caution. There's no. I should post it in the chat out there for people. It's literally bread, and it's just a whole piece of bread made out of bagel material. So what they do is it comes in an initial loaf. I was Googling this because Google's smarter than most of us.
Oh my gosh!
It comes in this loaf, and then they cut it, and then they cut the hole in the center.
I have
And
a
that's
question.
what you think of the bagel, yeah.
So when you get like toast, like a
Yeah.
loaf of bread,
It's different
and
bread.
then you cut it into slices, right? Both sides of my piece of toast look the same. The
Right.
top of my bagel doesn't look like the bottom of my bagel. So how's that cut from a loaf?
Because what they do is they cut the ends of the loaf and throw them away, and then they take the center, and that's what makes your bagel, right? So it does its own little bagel thing, or they just make the bagel individually, but they also make bagel bread. So I mean, you literally can like massage. If you ever make bread, don't tell your girl, your partner this, because my wife has a bread maker. I think she's only used it once because she procrastinates. But you can make your own bagels. You can make your own bread. She makes gluten-free bread. It sucks because it's gluten-free, but you can make your own bread. You can literally make your own bagels. I don't know how much the bread maker cost. It was a gift, but there's an option out there. I think she used it once.
The thing that's been killing me looking at that every time we've checked in is the fact that it seems like the amount of bagel bread that has been in the wrapper has been completely unchanged the entire time.
You're right.
How? That's what I want to know. What does he have?
He's faking the bites. He's faking the bites. That's what it is. It's all a bit.
I'll tell you what, I'm not faking. This Hot Pocket.
The Hot Pocket, I can tell. That's authentic.
This Hot Pocket's going down.
The roof of my mouth is burning for you.
Dog, I'm telling you, I'm starving. I come home to work, threw on a t-shirt and a jacket, said, "Let's ride, son." I'm starving. My wife forgot to bring me supper. So yeah, Hot Pockets it is. Yeah, we're just sitting back here eating a Hot Pocket, having a good time. Little pizza thing out here.
Let's cut out the yellows. Let's let Terry get some food in his system, but we still got 35 to go, so buckle up. We got a long way to go still from the Daytona International Speedway. Pace car off. Grant Davis and Agnell Phillip. That's a front row. Green flag is back in the air. Inside jumps. Wetmore going to go to the inside. Is there room for Phillip? Yes, he'll squeeze down in third.
William Schmidt this time could not get the run established on the outside lane. The inside will reign supreme on our first trip for turns 1 and 2 with 35 laps to go. Grant Davis, Cody Harris, Agnell Phillip, Todd Wetmore, all clear with the top three on a three-way tandem. Breaking away for the rest of the inside line behind, while William Schmidt and Ross Cato cannot get a move established up on the outside lane.
And just like a Hot Pocket, it's heating up in Daytona. Outside, inside, all three grooves starting to get formed up here. As you're right, Evan, it's go time now. These drivers did not care what we said up here, that it's 40 to go, 30 to go. It ain't go time. Buckle up, buckaroos, because everybody wants a chance to win this race, and virtually everybody left has a chance to win this race. As we just saw, the big one can strike as the top two of Cody Harris and Grant Davis are pushing the fire out of each other.
In the words of Sage the Gemini and Big 2-3, it's go, 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 go time. Here at Daytona, the inside, though, the place where the party's at, and they're wrecking again.
Hold it.
Dunkelberger's into the outside wall. The 79 of William Schmidt's in it as well. And they will come to a screeching halt as most people go through the grass to avoid it. Somebody else all the way around even further behind them. That was Ross Cato, who ended up in the grass as well.
And Ross Cato was part of the drivers that got involved in this. He and the 42 of Tom Morano slammed at the inside wall. Right there was the hit. There goes Cato and Morano screaming down the inside. Right there again, the hit from the bottom of the racetrack. And you saw somebody else. I think that was the 39 of Johnson that slid into pit road. And then, of course, you had somebody else that spun out on pit road proper as well. That would have been the 2 of San Vieto. You mentioned somebody else spinning around way at the tail end of the field. I believe that was, as you mentioned, Ross Cato, who was part of the one that started that all off. But considering where that happened, guys, that was about as good that situation could have gone. That's a miracle that there weren't more cars collected.
Oh, the only 2 that really or 4 got a ton of damage was the 2 on the wall. The 2 that hit the pit wall. The 18 to Dunkelberger, the 40. Oh, the 42 and the 12 just got plastered. That'll give old Bagel Boy a chance to finish the rest of that everlasting bagel from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But for I lost my train of thought. Yeah, for the person who saved it down there on the Johnson. For Johnson saving it on pit road, What a heck of a save. That's what I was thinking of.
And we got a little bit of split decision here. Most of the cars coming to pit road, I think, involved to some degree in the accident, but not everybody. Andrew Freenosh certainly wasn't involved in the accident. He is headed down pit road. This is what we talked about, right? You get a later yellow. Now's a good time because so many cars are going to be damaged at the tail end of this lead pack. Get that little bit extra in fuel, right? All these yellows will certainly help the race leaders get better fuel mileage. When they last pitted, there were 42 laps to go in this race. They're at 31. So they're going to be able to go, I think, safely now through at least one green-white checker. But you get to 2, you get to 3. It starts to get close. If you come down now and get fuel, you are good to go all the way. 3 is the maximum attempts of green-white checkers that can happen in this race. And I think some of the cars back here figure, listen, we're already at the back. We're going to be racing around some slower cars. Might as well just come in, get a little bit of insurance, and try to maybe hedge our bets on the long game.
So now that we're in the end game here, I have a feeling that the moves are going to be more and more aggressive as we get close towards the end of this race. Drivers towards the front, maybe not so much, but I think it's all going to come from about the mid-pack and back. As it started to become apparent to, I'd imagine, just about everybody behind that you don't have a lot of time left to make up these moves. You have to try to put yourself to the front, especially if you're going to be starting outside of the top half of the field and you are still on the lead lap. The front guys can take it easy until, as you mentioned, Terry, the last 10 or so laps. It's the guys that are about 20th on back that I'm at the moment really concerned about, which is where we might be seeing more yellow flags.
Well, I'm going to backtrack my statement from 20 laps ago. For the guys in the top 10, it's not go time yet. For the drivers outside that top 10, top 20, it's go time. You know, you put yourself in a different position when you actually... You think long game, you think big picture for the drivers that have necessarily been in this top 5, top 10 all race long. You think Grant Davis. We haven't really seen a top 10 without Cody Harris, Agnell Phillip, Tom Wetmore, Thomas George. They have been staples in this top 5, top 10. A lot of these other drivers, Staney, Rodriguez, Kolb, Pooler, Light, Bowie, I haven't seen them yet. Like, they haven't been on our radar. We haven't talked about them a whole lot. So now that we're in this position, if you're them, you're fighting like hell to stay in that spot. You already fought to get there. Now you have to fight even harder to stay there. The level of competition here in RSR ramped up this year. We've seen, I don't know, a guy get to the Coke Series from here. Multiple Coke Series drivers are here. Late model drivers. Drivers who have made it to the Truck Series, ARCA Series. They've come through this league. And now you're seeing some of these drivers here. The competition is not going to slow down. It's not going to go all the way down to the bottom of the barrel. This is the top of the top here on iRacing, and a lot of these drivers are showing it.
William Schmidt takes the EOL for causing the caution. He goes to the tail. That takes him out of the top 10. Pace car off. 30 laps to go for Grant Davis.
30 to go. Cody Harris, Tom Wetmore up on the outside line. Wetmore doesn't want to stay there. He'll jump to the bottom. Munatsi Major will try to link up with the 28. Harris going to jump to the bottom. So Major going to lead the outside lane as the top two bail, being pushed by Esteban Rodriguez, while Grant Davis and Agnell Phillip trying to work that inside line off of turn number 2.
Yeah, the last 30 laps of this race is like asking somebody out on prom. You have to make sure you butter them up a little bit. Hey, honey, I'll give you candy. I'll give you some flowers, maybe a little bouquet, something cool. I'll put on a nice, snazzy tux. You want that dancing partner to the end. You want that first slow dance that you got at that last lap where everything goes in slow-mo. You're about to win this race. And then she breaks up with you and tells you no. And you're spinning in the infield, and that other person got what you wanted. They took the queen to the dance. Who knows who's going to be the queen, who's going to be the one that's getting dumped outside of the gym, and who's the one eating spaghetti supper at the end of the night.
Sam Nieto is begging on the radio for the drivers in the second pack to not do whatever it is they're currently doing, because they're 3 wide back there and they're 3 wide up front too. There is no coordination in either of the packs. The double O leads that second group, but Steve Tucker's only 25th on the board. They are losing the race leaders and losing them quick, as the inside, the place to be, and that 3 wide back there is only going to continue to hurt that second group of race cars. They're fighting against each other. They need to be working together right now.
Yeah, that second train in particular has only hurted themselves more and more, as it was, I believe, Nieto that put themselves 3 wide that last time around. And I think at this point, they've lost the tail end of the draft up in front. It's going to take a real something for these guys to work that together. And again, Tucker abandoned on the top shelf as you jump into the lead pack, and there's the difference. You can see these guys working together as you've got Davis, Phillip, Harris, all trying to work in a line. Wetmore, George run the bottom. Rodriguez leading the top side, being shoved by Brandon Bowie. Sorry, make that actually David Kolb leading to the outside. So Ron Gearsom's car I was thinking of, that's leading the outside train, but they've got a charge going as they've made about 3 spots on just the first straightaway with only a train of 3. Jim Miller's the third in line.
Well, it seems I almost broke the stream with my stupid comment about prom dates and spaghetti supper, but the race is heating up out here. That outside of David Kolb, getting a really good shot from the 23 of Bowie. You see the 13 of Miller worked his way back up there after a questionable caution on the end there. Still has an opportunity to win this race, but Grant Davis set himself up for success by staying out under a caution flag. Has been able to keep this track position key. Fell back to 15th. Worked his way back up to the race lead. Has a really good piece under him. Has held steady up here. But he's got the defending champion. He's got one of the guys who was in the Final 4 last season right there with him. And he's got Tom Wetmore back there who's hungry for a race win that wants to get it done. And Thomas George would love one as well. There's an opportunity. There's plenty of wins to go around. But there's a lot of people in this top 10, Evan, that are searching for win number 1.
And that goes back to what I mentioned at the very start of the night, is that this super speedway has housed many a firsts just based on the nature of the racing here and how important a race win for somebody here tonight could be in terms of thinking long-term, thinking playoffs. Much later on this season, you could make your next 5-6 months a lot less stressful if you find a checkered flag here in 25 laps from now. The 23 of Bowie drops off a little bit there, lost touch with the 99 of David DeCall, but that's going to slow the whole outside line down. They'll reconnect down the super stretch with a big shove there, but the inside still the better place by 4.5 car lengths. That secondary pack is all the way 8.5 seconds off of the leaders. They have officially lost touch with the top 24.
That's a bit of a weight off the top 24 shoulders as well. It's that many less drivers that they have to contend with for race wins up here. Of course, it still leaves 24 cars that are going to be duking them out amongst themselves with 24 laps to go as we enter the final quarter of this 250-mile affair here at the World Center of Racing. Still, the outside lane, while it's formed up, the run has so far not been there. I think they might need somebody from this bottom lane to try to jump up to give them some of that draft down the back straightaway in order for them to probably get a run going. They are making progress, but it is slow progress. If they got one car to jump up to the top lane, that outside lane will just shoot to the front of the train.
Yeah, it's all going to be able to who you put up there, who's the key pieces that you're going to stick together in these final 23 laps. If you have a driver up there that doesn't necessarily have a good, feel of being pushed, okay, try to shuffle them out as quickly as possible. You'll start to low throughout this race. Who can take the push? Who can be the pusher? You want to put aces in places right here. You're starting to see a little bit of discombobulation on that bottom lane where you're starting to see them off each other again. You're starting to see Agnell Phillip not want to let Raleigh Grant Davis roll up that track just a little bit. Cody Harris is starting to get a little antsy back there. Every driver's waiting on that Ford as you look at the Buckeye guy right there sitting in P3. I know this hurts Evan's heart, even though Michigan won. Michigan kind of, didn't do very hot in a semifinal game. Even though they both lost, it was still trash. But if he jumps up there and waits for David Kolb to get a good run, has a good opportunity to take this race lead.
We'll tell you what, Cody Harris is doing something that The Ohio State University cannot do, and that is be a top 4 car. We'll see how this one ends by the end of the night. But
gosh.
at least Cody's in contention. Always a perennial contender here on Monday nights. Can't remember the last time the Buckeyes were a perennial contender. Must have been 6-7 years ago.
I'm recording this.
To the inside line, Wetmore is the decision maker. He is still your biggest mover by a mile, plus 38 positions. Davis has gained 25. Bowie has gained 24. We haven't talked a ton about him either. All of those drivers that started at the back have made their way to the party. 20 laps to go next time by.
20 to go, and a top 3 breakaway won't last for long, though, as Wetmore closing in. Does he stay in line? Does he shoot to the top to keep the momentum going? He's going to stay in line. David Kolb trying to get linked up with Brandon Bowie. Bowie going to get it in with Kolb's number 99 car, shoving him down to the turn numbers 3 and 4. Dead even with Thomas George. Now with Tom Wetmore. Here comes the run out through turn number 4 with the slight transition off the banking. Can Bowie link up with him again? Oh, he does, but it's a bit of a wobbly bump there as the 23 did not get the square hit, and that's only going to stack the outside lane up.
20 laps to go, and the booth is starting to throw haymakers up here, or just like they're throwing them on the track. But you see the outside lane, you see what they're doing. They just don't have the form. They don't have the line that you want. I mean, you see the bottom is able to just accordion their way up. You see the vicious hit that you're starting to see here when we break it down to 20 to go, pushing the mess out of him, but that only goes so far. The third, fourth car are the real winners in that line. They're the ones that are going to dictate the momentum. They're going to dictate the force that's going to go up in front of you. If you're Matt Danson right now, every time you see that 13 disconnected off of the car in front of him, knock the mess out of him. Make him knock the mess out of him. Make him knock the mess out of the leader right there in that 99 machine. It'd be like the old pendulum effect. Bam, 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 lead.
They are locked tight from about row 4 or 5 on back, but there's still that little bit of an advantage that the inside has that the top has not been able to answer in quite some time now. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when they'll get there. Lapped car going to go to the outside. That's the damage number 79 to William Schmidt going a lap down. That leaves us with 33 cars on the lead lap. I think the other thing that's hurting this outside line is you can see those connection issues happening from the lead of that top side with David Kolb, and it's just making the draft inconsistent on the outside. Admittedly, there's nothing that Brandon Bowie can do about that, but I think that's probably hurting them a little bit as well.
Oh, and a bit of a scramble in the mid-pack here as Brandon Bowie got shuffled out to the top side. Jeremy Miller going to link up now with Kolb as the field got discombobulated. Kolb bails out to the bottom lane after all the Pearson's cars got a bit bobbled up together. So Miller and Dance now leave the top side while Bowie's still 3 wide. He's going to fall all the way down to the tail end of the field.
Yeah, I think it just was a matter of that outside lane wasn't going anywhere. I think they might be listening to the broadcast because when I said that the 38 needed to make a move, the 38 was the one that could control what that move was. These cars, once you get a bump, you can put them where you want them to go. You can make them get out of your way. It's not a, hey, dog, cue up on the radio, hey, dog, move for me. No, it's a get out of my way. And that's what it turned out to be. It turned out to be a shot from the 38 into the 13, into the 23 of move. It's as simple as that. You go faster, move. And now you're seeing that outside lane starting to make some momentum with Danson. You got Mariah right there. You got Jeremy Miller leading that pack up there on the outside. You got Staney in that fight down there at the bottom. Whitaker's there. Starting to put your aces in places. Who can be the fastest getting pushed and who can take the push all the way around Daytona?
We touched on it a bit earlier as well, the pushing in the corner, right? You'll push on the straights, you'll push on the short shoots. You really don't want to be locked in the corners. We've seen that cause incidents. That's what sent Jeremy Miller around off of the nose of Agnell Phillip, and they had both kind of admitted to that on the radio. Agnell said, yeah, I probably pushed you too early, and Jeremy said, yeah, I wasn't expecting it and wasn't as smooth on the wheel as I could have been. That rule's also going to go out of the window at some point here, where they're going to be pushing in the corners, and that's when these things can get really, really messy. Danson doing everything he can now that it's Miller leading the outside line to make up for the lackluster effort that the top has had for the last 5 to 10 laps. Miller going to pull alongside Wetmore. That'll be a battle for fourth, but uncontested is Davis, Phillip, and Harris first, second, and third.
So the bottom lane still reigning supreme here in the later stages of this race as we're coming to 15 to go to start lap 87 of 100. Davis and Phillip so far have been definitely the two drivers to beat in the pushing teams on the bottom, but how long is this alliance going to last? At the end of the day, as much as Phillip's been helping Davis, he's out to win this race himself, so it's not going to be too long here before Phillip eventually has had enough and he's going to make that move on out. Meanwhile, looking like a couple of drivers might have to find themselves in trouble. Eric Papineau with a black flag currently that has yet to be served for the 37 car.
Yeah, I think if you're Agnell Phillip here, why not? Why not push the 24 to a win? You're the defending champ. You know, you proved last season that anytime you show up to a Monday Night RSR event, you have an opportunity to win. No disrespect to Grant Davis here, but how many times last season did we go, I'm taking the 24 to win? You know, we had Kevin King, we had Matt Danson, we had Agnell Phillip, Andrew Freenach in the field. We were taking one of those four. Virtually every week was who we were looking at to race their way to a win. Why not push the 24 to a win? Keep somebody out of the winner column in week one that could potentially become a threat down the road. Not saying that the 24 Grant Davis won't be a threat down the road to him, but don't let your competition win. Grant Davis would be a great person to lock himself into the playoffs first. Agnell Phillip could probably go next week and win. Or, you know, we go to Auto Club next week. There's a chance that he goes to win that race. Every plate race, I think you should honestly sit back and go, do I want to push a Matt Danson to the win and give him momentum to keep winning? Or do I want to push a driver that I can lock him in the playoffs to have one less playoff spot for somebody that might threaten me for the championship?
And apparently they don't think it's aggressive enough because somebody in the field said, it's almost 10 laps to go. When are we going to start racing? I think that's maybe some instigator mentality, because if they're too wide like this and everybody's riding, what can you do from 15th? You can't right now, right? You're just going to push. You need people to start making moves. You need this to get a little bit messy so that you can find openings to exploit. That is what those cars in the back are trying to do. But we've got these Pure Sims cars leading the outside line now, guys. I think that those two cars are going to be pretty well sticking together. I don't see any reason why the 99 machine of David Kolb and the 16 of Esteban Rodriguez would split up, right? I referenced earlier that you try to learn the unknowns, but also this is a good time in a league race to have friends and to have teammates. We got two teammates lined up on the outside line of the racetrack, and I would expect them to stick together. That's going to make it that much more difficult. Oh! Look out. Davis gets touched. He'll save it. It's the 28 of Harris down to the apron. He needs to come back up 3 wide into turn 3.
Well, the instigating from Sean Castro in that second train almost worked as the field went 3 wide down to turn numbers 3 and 4, so nearly caught the caution that second group is hoping for, so they can get back into contention. That's allowed the Pure Sims duo to get down into the middle end of the racetrack, as now we officially take 10 laps to go in the opening race of the RealSimRacing, a full Throttle Cup Series in 2023. They're still 3 abreast as they run down the turn numbers 1 and 2, and this is again created a bit of a rift in the pack. You've gone from first on back to about 12th position, then it's 13th on back, but they're starting to gradually close up together. The field still scrambling back in the field as it's just complete mayhem now at Daytona. One driver caught in the middle, that's going to be Jason Staney, that's caught in the sucker hole as drivers go to the left and right around him. Meanwhile, Miller's going to abandon the bottom lane to go up top.
And Miller's driving like he's got his hair on fire. He went to the bottom, to the top, to the bottom, to the top to lead that outside lane. He pulls right up in front of Agnell Phillip, who has been a proven winner to push people to that lead as the 24 almost lost it there a little earlier on and kind of discombobulated this entire field and really scattered it like an anthill that got stepped on. Oh, the block to the top. Oh, he's going to get caught out. Why didn't you leave your teammate?
They split up, and it is not going to work out, I think, for either of them. Going the wrong way is David Cobb with no help on the outside. He's going to go from nearly leading this race to possibly outside of the top 15. Here comes the third line now, though. Dancing to the outside. The 44 car goes with him, so he's got help from Lariah, and it's the defending champ Agnell Phillip in the sucker hole.
Jeremy Miller holding on to the bottom lane still with Grant Davis pushing up top. The Pure Sims teammates have been broken apart. Rodriguez now runs alone, second in line on the inside line while drivers still try to get themselves sorted. Phillip has gone from second in the train all the way down to almost last now in the train as he's still caught 3 wide and cannot make moves. The outside lane just can't get sorted as Grant Davis going to be abandoned. Matt Danton trying to make a move. No room for them. To the top goes Staney along with Punkari and George being pushed to the lead.
Wow, how everything has turned so far. George gets the lead. He jumps to the bottom lane with Brett Picari pushing him. Now you see the outside lane starting to pick up here as I believe that's Stanford in the 19 pushing that 13. Oh my God, there's so much going on as the third line's trying to form. That's the 24 jumping to the outside. Hey, better get it figured out because it's going to take them more than 3 to get around here to get that outside going. As Staney, Picari lead the outside lane. It's Miller Rodriguez following the 6 Sirius XM Ford Mustang of Thomas George. 6 laps to go, and oh, there's a car on the bottom.
Race leaders continue on through. You can see the shuffle up is at the back of this group. Kalis is back there. Looks like William Schmidt as well as Newen Flores. So those drivers.
There we go.
And there's the wreckage dancing into the outside wall. Lariah's involved. It's 2 of your major players, Michael Lariah and Matt Danson, and a caution at 6 to go.
That changes everything. It just turned this race upside down. But look at how wild this top 10 is, though. This is as crazy as what this replay is about to show. Oh,
just in the middle,
right there.
3 wide. We know that drivers are going to start to take those liberties at this point in the race, and as Danson was up top, he saw Davis get in the wall. He tried to go under Davis, and when he did that, Davis came off the wall and got into him.
Oh boy. Well, earlier in the run here, Sean Castle in the second lane said, it's about 10 laps to go. You guys better start racing. Steve Durham said, don't listen to him. They did, in fact, listen to him, and we just saw the result of that one as this caution runs the risk of putting us into overtime territory, and I believe it's going to end up doing just that. So we've set ourselves up for a 2-lap dash, and well, let's just say when there's one, there's usually bound for another one to follow.
No, don't apply common sense to super speedway racing, all right? You do that, you throw the whole vortex off if you use it. A good analogy I heard in the official lobbies, as many of you know, that is a wonderful world to learn a lot of things. Somebody explained super speedway racing as thinking like an idiot at Walmart. And it was his words, not mine. He said the only way to be successful here is to think like an idiot. Think of the move And then if it doesn't sound dumb enough, don't do it, because it must be too smart to work. If you make a dumb move, you have a chance to win. And sure enough, I did it. I didn't win, but I had somebody else win. But it was that's how plate racing or super speedway racing was explained to me in officials yesterday. I thought it was pretty funny. I told him I would share it. Hopefully he's watching, because it sounded good. But look at this top 10. George, Miller, Rodriguez, Stanford, Pooler, Bowie, Wolfshiver? I think I'm saying that wrong. I'll get corrected. Picari, Phillip, and Staney. Out of all of those, Evan, I only see one that I believe has a win, but I'm not looking at the stat sheet either.
The fun thing about, a intermediate races, when you kind of figure out the 3 or 4 drivers that have a chance to win it, you can check the stats. I just don't have enough eyes, hands, or brain power to check the stats for everybody, because all you got to do is be on the lead lap and you got a chance of winning this race. But you're right. I mean, you got some new faces: Rodriguez, Pooler, Wolsifer, Pancari, Staney. Then you got a lot of vets in there, right? And how many times has Thomas George been in this position? That is an experienced driver leading the charge. But don't take the RSR inexperience for general inexperience, right? Just because somebody's new to RSR doesn't mean they're not experienced. These are drivers who are A-class level drivers on the iRacing service, have competed in many official series, in other leagues as well. Just might be the first time we're seeing them in this capacity on a Monday night. Looks like nobody going to claim responsibility for that incident. That'll be the 4th one going to a post-race review. And we are headed to a green-white checkered regulation restart. So we mentioned earlier there would be 3 attempts at RealSimRacing overtime. This is not one of them. We are on lap number 98. We'll come around to take the green flag at 99. And then 100, if we get there, will be the white flag. So it's essentially a green-white checker finish, but we have not yet burned any of those 3 overtime restart attempts. We have a chance at finishing this in its scheduled distance.
We call that a free trial in the business.
That's also what you could do if you go to SiriusXM.com. You can sign up for a free trial today.
Doing Thomas George's work for him.
How's that for a segue?
What a free plug for SiriusXM, man! You can listen to all your NASCAR news on SiriusXM Channel 90. Segway.
Yeah. Is this man getting royalty checks?
I wish. If I did, I'd be rich. I can make a plug out of anything except for a hair plug. I don't think I can do that.
Well, let's see. Is it going to be the SiriusXM 6 in Victory Lane? Is it going to be the 13 of Jeremy Miller? Esteban Rodriguez and Eric Stanford are on row 2. Carl Pooler and Brandon Bowie on row number 3. Richard Wolsifer, Brett Pancari, row 4. Agatha Phillip, Jason Staney, row 5. Plus another 24 cars still in contention to win this race. And they can do it right here, right now. Pace car off and in. Thomas George is in control at Daytona. Green flag in the air. 2 laps to go.
2 to go, and that number 6 car has got a pretty decent jump. We talked about this before. Got to watch for that. You got to get up and get to the outside lane before they can get the run, and he's going to do just that. Jimmy Miller gives it the bumper, and so far Miller not failing out to the bottom because Rodriguez is fully there. The field condensing, and well, that didn't last long. We got a wrecking behind, and we are going to go to a proper green-white checkered attempt this time around. Dancing collected for the 2nd caution in a row.
It was way in the back.
Yeah, way in the back. Beat me to the punch, because when you came to me, the first thing I was going to say is we ain't making it back to white flag. And you see here, Eric Papineau's right there. The 37, Danson's there. See, did everybody just bottleneck and he just lost it? What the mess? Oh, Danson tried to go 3 wide, and somebody else thought they were clear, and didn't expect to see a 38 Logitech G Camaro in their mirror.
It was Papineau that got into that in a bad way, but I believe it was 27 of Woodruff that made that move up to cut Danson off.
It was Woodruff on the bottom. They were too wide. there wasn't a ton of room there anyways, because at 37 up on the outside of Eric Papineau wasn't all the way up against the wall. He was obviously only running as high as he would need to be for a 2-wide scenario. And then when Danson tried to pass the admittedly damaged 27, the 27 came up and was not clear, put him into the wall. And Matt Danson had a chance to win this race. We're talking about his aspirations to be a Cup champ, and he's gotten that thing wadded up twice within 5 laps.
I still think he's going to win the championship. I mean, a lot of drivers see this as the opening part of their schedule. And I'll openly admit it. In any league that I run in, if they put Daytona number 1, because most leagues always have to start with Daytona, which is cool because it's a fun little race to go do. It's checkers or wreckers in my mind. If you're a lot of these drivers right here, this is a free ticket or it's a pass. Like I think this is a drop week 99% of the time. Either I'm going to win it or I'm going to wreck trying to win it. And right now, I mean, if you're Agnell Phillip and you're Matt Danson, there's a lot of races on the schedule that you could circle and go, I have a chance to win. Saw it last year. The road courses were dominated by Danson. So, I mean, he's got a lot of road courses on the schedule. He's won on ovals. I mean, let's not forget his Kansas win. He's got an opportunity to come out here and get it going. And yeah, look at these drivers on the apron. It's fuel saving time.
We knew this was coming. We talked about those drivers, how I should say everybody first pitted with 42 laps to go, but then about 1 or 2 yellows later, I mentioned some drivers towards the rear were coming down to pit road because they wanted to get a little bit of insurance fuel in case we had to go to multiple attempts at an overtime restart, and this may be the scenario in which that is coming into play. We are still at least 1 lap from getting the 1 to go. Again, it's going to be our first attempt at an overtime finish. We'll talk about the procedures and the rules for overtime in a moment, but the story here is obviously George and Rodriguez, guys up front, have been out there for 42 laps. That's 5 laps longer than Miller, Pooler, Stanford, Wolsifer, and Bowie behind them have. So if it's even close, then those top 2 are at a huge disadvantage and need this thing to end ASAP. They can't afford to be going to multiple overtimes.
Multiple overtimes at Daytona is one of the biggest occurrences that we could probably have over in stock car competition, right behind multiple overtime attempts at short tracks and then, of course, at Talladega Superspeedway. It's just the nature of the track, right? I mean, when you get down to a 2-lap dash at Daytona, there is no teamwork. It is all bets are completely off. It is every man for himself, and everybody's going to be looking for a hole, even if that hole is as thin as a piece of paper.
I think I got a better chance of my ex-wife coming back than going green to the end at a plate track and not having a green-white checkered attempt. But I think the best person in line right at this moment, I think we're looking at him. P3, the 13, Jeremy Miller, pitted on lap 38 laps ago. And, well, he's been the aggression and the aggressor in a lot of situations. And he's going to be able to push that 6 really far out. And if that 6 sputters for a split second, I would not put it past that 13 to shoot the gap, go straight up the middle, and potentially go win this race.
Well, let's talk through the rules of RealSimRacing Overtime. This is attempt number 1 of 3 at a green-white checkered finish. If the caution comes with 2 laps to go on the board, so before the white flag, then the race will be restarted and we'll try it again for attempt number 2. However, if the white flag is taken, the race will end no matter what. Once they get to the white, that's the magic ticket that they're going to race this one out no matter what else happens. But I'll tell you what, that is going to be a long 2.5-mile trip to making this attempt official. All the cars saving fuel got to pull back up in line as the pace car dives low. Attempt number 1 at RSR Overtime. Green flag in the air.
Attempt number 1, technically attempt number 2, as Thomas George trying to pull clear, but Esteban Rodriguez along with Pooler have the run from the top shelf as the sun begins to set behind Daytona International Speedway. It'll be a sunset finale as Pooler gets set to try to make the run for the race lead. Here comes Wolzenberg to give a shove. They're going to give a huge push to Rodriguez down the back straightaway for the second to last time today.
3 wide, a little further on back, but it's not going to matter. It's 2 by 2 as they come through 3 and 4. 16 to the outside, 6 to the bottom. Big shove from Pooler to the back bumper of Rodriguez. The bottom's great. Here comes Agnell Phillip up the middle. He's got help. Blocked to the top. 1 to go. White flags in the air.
One final lap to go from iRacing's Daytona. They're going to crash behind. It is a huge mess in the second half of the pack, but none of that matters. More cars wrecking now. Phillips into the outside wall. Davis is involved. A second big one, but the leaders drag race down the back straightaway. Dog to the outside. Goes the 6 of George. Back low, and here comes Esteban Rodriguez. He's pushed by the 71 of Carl Pooler. And Rodriguez now goes to the race lead. More crashing behind now. This time it's Pancari. There's only about 5 or 6 cars left. Who wins it? Rodriguez on the inside. Pooler on the outside. Side by side. And it is going to be Esteban Rodriguez winning the Daytona 250.
We went from about 30 cars in the pack to 20 to 10 to 5, and at the end, Rodriguez survives the mayhem, goes 20th to 1st, and picks it up in a photo finish at the Daytona International Speedway. You look to the replay, the margin of victory, 14 thousandths of a second. Pooler had the lead, but it was that bump from Rodriguez that did him in. George tried to shoot for the apron. It was nothing doing, as by half a car, Rodriguez takes the season opener.
That's how you finish a race at Daytona. And if you're the 16 of Esteban Rodriguez, welcome to the playoffs. And what a way to start your RSR time over here. You just won the longest race of the season, other than the Coke 600. But oh my goodness, what a race! What a win!
What a win for Esteban Rodriguez. He has only made 2 prior RSR points race starts, both in the Winter Series, and now he is a Cup Series winner. Esteban Rodriguez wins the 2023 Daytona 250 and has cashed in the first spot on the playoff grid. What a debut for the Pure Sims Ford Mustang driver, and this is a well-deserved celebration for him. Let's take a look at your RealSimRacing full race results as he parks it right there on the start-finish line. Again, the final margin of victory, 15 ten-thousandths of a second, as it'll be Rodriguez over Pooler in a thrilling finish. And Thomas George almost got in late, tried to go to the inside. There wasn't a gap. The 6 car comes home third. We'll try to talk with all of them momentarily. Jeremy Miller and Brandon DeBuey get great finishes. They're inside of the top 5. What a great result for the Juncos Racing Esports New and Flores 88 machine in P6. Tom Wetmore goes from a provisional to a top 10 car ahead of Shaw, Nieto, and Casto.
11th place, bringing it on back. It's going to be Steve Tucker with Cody Harris back in 12th. Brett Bunkari picks it up for 13th. Dance was 14th. Dunkelberger back in 15th. William Schutt was 16th with Phillip at 17th. Farina, a disappointing 18th place for a multi-time champion. Eric Stanford and Ross Cato bringing it up in the top 20.
21st, you're going to find Brandon Fetter place, Andrew 5th, Brian Dixon, Grant Davis, strong run, 24th for car 24, Mike Konchensky back there in 25th, David Kolb, Manazzi Major, Jason Staney, Sean Kalis, and Michael Johnson rounds out your top 30.
And you continue down through. Steve Durham going to be the final driver on the lead lap. Again, all those drivers involved in those late accidents. You got Wolsifer, Whitaker, Light, Lariah, and Tice still in this race. And a lot of DNFs to go around. It's going to be Paul Bergoli, Richard Woodruff, Eric Papineau, Tom Morano, the top 40, Jeremy Richmond, and Matt Mara 41st and 42nd. Let's look top to bottom at your full race results. Let's watch this again. Final lap of the race. 1 wreck behind, 2 wrecks behind right there as they crash in turns 1 and 2. And the whole time he was working up top behind as they raced off at turn 2.
It wasn't the last one, though. You still, of course, had the mayhem that went down in turns 3 and 4. You can see Rodriguez shoot for the high side. He immediately chopped down low as they enter turn 3 to try to take the run away. Fuller, though, got run for the top side as there goes the rest of what was left of the field from 10 cars down to 5. Fuller got the run of a 4. If he had stayed there, he would have gotten that race win. But right there, he hit off the door of Rodriguez, and there was that little break in speed that was the deciding factor in the season opener.
That was probably one of the best finishes I've seen on iRacing. I don't know if it was as good as the Coke race at Dega last year, but that's up there. I hope that gets sent to iRacing to say, hey, look at what we did at RSR on our season opener. Had a very tight photo finish. I mean, that came down to 15 10,000ths of a second. That is that's incredible.
And we're going to try to talk with all of the drivers involved in this. Let's go in reverse order. Thomas George is 3rd place tonight. Terry, you're dialed up with the driver of the 6 car.
Well, Thomas George, you led a good bit of laps. I threw a good sponsor plug out there for you for SiriusXM in the free trial, and then potentially listening to SiriusXM Channel 90 for NASCAR news and highlights. Last lap, a lot of beating and banging, a lot of wrecks happened behind you. How did you manage to still, functionally get a top 3?
I didn't functionally steal a top 3. I functionally lost the race. I mean, I didn't have any. I made the move I thought I needed to make, and that wasn't the right one. That green-white checker, I wish we hadn't got that caution to bring out that green-white checker, because I got to the outside with Jeremy and I've been able to run the outside and pinch him down and keep him at bay earlier in the race, and that was what I wanted. And now I tried to stop the outside momentum and cut back down, and they had too much momentum, and if they could have kept pushing me and then 16 could have jumped to the inside, it's Daytona. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, I mean, let's think of it this way too: is you set yourself up for a positive start to the season, right? You come home P3, you have an opportunity going into next week to continue on. What did you learn last season to come into here? You got a little hot streak going towards the end of the season. You were running a little bit better. Do you bring that into this season? Does the car feel better to you? Are you going to be able to click off a couple wins this year on the 1.5 mile and 2 miles?
That's the plan. I mean, I feel like last year was just one of those years I couldn't get it together. Second half of the season, the early start was all right, and then middle of the season kind of just bad luck, bad situations, and then kind of start getting it together towards the end. But then I had other personal issues to tend to, so I couldn't focus as much as I wanted to. And that's kind of why I'm disappointed to lose this one, because I wanted to win this for my grandpa, and Steve Nerf Gottschalk, lost both of them in the last month, so I wanted to win it for them. But I know they'd be proud of me for finishing 3rd, and we just have to got to get the car dialed in the way we need to. We need to practice a little bit more, figure out, I did start figuring out some things towards the end of the year, as it's a new car, and trying to figure out what I can do, what I can't do with it. And I feel good, but obviously the real test starts next week now for Fontana, and we'll see if we can rekindle some of the old 1.5 mile magic, 2 mile magic that I tend to be known for in this league. I was joking with Steve Durham. I think I'm the elder statesman here now. I've been here, I think, longer than anybody else. So, gotta try and not be too old, I guess. I don't know.
well, we won't interrupt your nap time. We'll let you get on to bed, Thomas. But
Man, I'm only 33. I'm not that old.
Don't forget to put some Bengay on your legs. All right. I'll see you in Fontana next week.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Thomas George, driver of the number 6 Sirius XM Ford Mustang, Evan.
He is third. Let's move one step up. Carl Pooler was so close to the win. He is second tonight at Daytona, and talking now with Nolan.
Well, it was 14 thousandths the second for the driver that went 25th to the runner-up step on the podium. Carl, you had the lead coming off of 4, but one door bang with Rodriguez was all it took, and you find yourself finishing second place in the season opener. But all things considered, especially when you think about where you could have been had you been back in the pack on that last lap, overall, still not a finish to be upset about.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, being a rookie driver in this really tough league, coming out with the second place, I might as well have won it. I couldn't have imagined coming out in one piece, let alone in second place. So that was just great. I did everything I could to try and keep Esteban a little bit slower, but that push from George, he just I could not overcome. And, 14 thousandths of a second is still a great feeling.
So why don't you talk us through that final lap as the field went from 30 cars to 20 to 10 to 5, and then that drag race as he came off that final corner towards the stripe.
Oh, definitely. You could feel the intensity picking up really with 10 to go. And I think even someone mentioned it, like it was time to go, and you could tell everyone was moving. I saw a move trying to make a 3 wide coming out of 2, and I couldn't let that happen. I knew if I was going to get shuffled out, I was going to finish or not finish. So I had to make a move. I decided to stick with Esteban there and give him the push. That was my best chance. And, I'm just glad I took that chance.
And obviously mentioned being a rookie driver in such a competitive field in RSR, but overall, I think you've well established your position as a driver that could be one to watch for as we get set to go later on into the season. What's going to be the overall goal for that 71 car as we start to work our way through a long season that doesn't wrap up until October?
Oh, consistency. It's got to be consistency. Second place at Daytona is definitely a start. These drivers have a ton of speed, a ton of talent, and really, I didn't think I was going to be up here. I learned a lot through the first half of the race. Some practice sessions I was doing. Of course, this is Daytona week on the service, so that was great for me and great for practice. But really, I just want to pull off consistent finishes and just be around in the playoffs and learn a lot. There's a lot to learn here, and I'm glad to be here to do it.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you up here tonight then, Carl. Congratulations on the second place. Tough luck on the fact that it was by such a slim margin. Hopefully it'll be one better when we go racing next week.
Still got to try and practice. Thank you, guys. Good broadcast.
That's Carl Pooler joining us up here from that second position. And, well, that's going to move it on down to the driver that started at 20th, went all the way up to take it to the race win. And, Evan, you got the race winner from Pure Sims.
We're trackside with Esteban Rodriguez, your 2023 Daytona 250 winner. And not only is it a season opening victory, Esteban, but it is a first start victory for you in the Cup Series. We saw you with some limited starts over the winter, but you have joined quite the list of old-time RSR Cup Series winners, and you did it in your first time out. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. I mean, that plate racing is like the last kind of racing I expect to win when it comes to oval stuff. So that was a huge surprise to me to like be at the right place, right time, and capture that win.
Walk us through this one, because it was hardly a walk in the park. You race through the duels. You find yourself right in the middle of all of the chaos, and I know that's a nervous place to be in at a plate track like this. What was the strategy, and how did you feel you executed on that, keeping the car in contention leading up to that final restart?
Well, it felt like for 70% of the race, we were just really focused on trying to save fuel, me and my Pure Sims teammates. Then towards the end there, once we realized we were probably going to be good on fuel, granted, if there wasn't more than one green, white checkered, I feel like we would have been fine. So once we got to the end there and fuel strategy wasn't in play anymore, I mean, it was just a matter of let's all get together and try to make some moves. My teammates tried to jump to the top a couple occasions, but they dropped them and the top lane didn't pick them up. So I saw that happen to 2 of my teammates. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stick to the bottom. And I mean, worst comes to worst, I could probably at least get a top 5 out of it or be in a position to win, hopefully.
And then we get down to the final restart in this race. Going to be a 2-lap to go shootout. You find yourself on the outside, Thomas George to your inside. How'd you make it work?
Honestly, I was just trying. I was honestly mirror driving for a little bit. I didn't want the guy behind me to like just throw me out or spit me out into the middle and I lose all the toe. So I was just like, look, I'm just going to mirror drive for a little bit. Hope I keep this guy behind me on my bumper, keep giving me some good pushes, and I'll see where the momentum goes. And if I could get clear bottom, I'll just take it and hope for the best. And that's really what happened. I got clear bottom and I took it. And thankfully, Thomas George, he gave me some good pushes and it was just enough to give me that W.
Does this change the outlook for you at all? Obviously, it's not a 110% guarantee with the number of winners that could theoretically happen, but to get a win and to get yourself at least penciled into a playoff grid in week 1, what does that do for the next couple of weeks as we get through the rest of this regular season?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not really thinking about championships so early on or playoffs or anything like that. I'm just trying to learn the car and just have some fun out there, really.
Well, at the start of tonight, there were 521 different names that have competed all time in RealSimRacing League history, and you are race winner number 114 of all of those. We'll let you jet out of here and celebrate. Before we do, though, who do you want to say hi and thanks to?
I want to say hi and thanks to everybody in Pure Sims. All my good teammates, Jason, David, and Spencer unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but he'll be here for Fontana. So yeah, I want to just say thanks to all the Pure Sims and to you guys for the good broadcast.
We appreciate having you racing with us here on Mondays. We're looking forward to seeing what you and the rest of the team can do. We appreciate the time. Congratulations on the win.
All right, thanks, guys.
To race winner tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, it is Brooklyn, New York's Esteban Rodriguez for Pure Sims Esports as another first-time Real Sim Racing winner. And we go right from a plate track opener, guys, into the real season, right? A lot of people will tell you, well, the real season doesn't start till week 2. It's very real for Esteban Rodriguez. Nolan, I'll jump to you first on this. And the point is, you know, what we saw here tonight at Daytona. It was the Daytona race, right? I don't think anything really shocked us, but it always kind of shakes the system when you do get that first-time winner, and that's one less spot for a veteran. I think that Rodriguez and his entire team are going to be a threat this year. Let's see how Pure Sims competes as a unit, right? Could we be talking about them in contention for the team championship even? But it's just a really big moment for him in that group.
Oh, no doubt. There's nothing more special than getting your first win in a new league, but it's especially one that you get on your first start, no less. That tells you that you're one to look out for, because whether you like it or not, you do need a little bit of skill at the very least to win a plate track and to keep your car up in front and clean, and that's exactly what Esteban Rodriguez showed here today. He is absolutely going to be a threat for the title this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the Pure Sims crew can pull off in the run towards the later end of the race.
Fontana next week. Terry, could it be our final trip to the 2-mile oval?
You know, I hope not. I don't know who stuck their heads together and thought, man, it'd be a good idea to bulldoze one of the best races on the schedule, but I'd love to slap them in the back of it and tell them they're idiots. But I hope we keep this on the schedule for a long time. This is going to be a great race. PRL puts on a great race there. RSR puts on a great race there. Monday Night Racing puts on a great race there. We need this on the NASCAR schedule, and they could build a short track inside that big old 2-mile track. You can leave the 2-mile where it's at and put the trucks on the short track. But God, next week's going to be fantastic. And I don't know. I got Matt Danson winning next week.
They say it's when it really gets down to it. We're leaving, I think, a long week of RSR action and a long week of iRacing service action of Daytona behind us. And These drivers are going to have to pound the pavement to get their practice in as we head to Fontana next week. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from Daytona, Florida. On behalf of our entire team at RaceSpotTV, for myself, Evan Pasoko, Fredola Rumpel, Terry Radford, our director Joshua Lee, and everybody else behind the scenes at RaceSpot and RealSimRacing, we want to thank you for tuning in, and congratulations go to Esteban Rodriguez, a first-time series winner. The calendar rolls on, though, into next Monday night on February the 27th from iRacing's virtual Auto Club Speedway. That race and every race of the 2023 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpot TV. Till next time, good night from Daytona.